I'm Mark Goldbridge, and this is your latest Manchester United news as we react to Erik ten Hag's press conference for the Bournemouth game. Also got a bit of transfer news for you, hot off the press, involving Serie A, and it's probably not the news you would expect. So we'll talk about that in a moment, but let's get into Erik ten Hag's press conference. He was speaking shortly ago, talking about the prospects for Manchester United ahead of the Bournemouth game, also talking about the departure of John Murtough for the first time publicly, and basically saying, get me a director of football. With regards to next season, this is a really important role. Let's get into it. Lots to get into. We're going to start off with injuries, though. So, the situation with injuries this week is that Raphael Varane is not going to be back. I spoke about this in the preview yesterday, that I would have him in there next to Maguire if he's back. I didn't know whether he was or not. He's not. He won't be back for a few weeks. So we play Coventry a week on Sunday. I would say Varane probably will not play that game. We'll have to wait and see on that. Johnny Evans is a little bit closer with regards to that. Scott McTominay, very doubtful for tomorrow, will probably be back for the FA Cup game. And Marcus Rashford did train yesterday, has a bit of a knock from the weekend, and they're going to see how he goes with regards to that. Obviously, no Martinez, no Luke Shaw. You know, the longer term injuries are still going to be departures, absentees. I think the first thing I would say is that the real issue is the centre-backs. You presume it will be Cam Waller and Maguire tomorrow. They'll be tested, obviously, with the likes of Solanke, who's had a very good season. With regards to the Rashford injury, if I'm being completely honest, is this now an indication of what Marcus Rashford is to Manchester United? Because I'm actually not bothered. I wouldn't start him against Bournemouth, as I said in the preview. I'd put Anthony on the right and I would put Garnacho on the left. And if either of them don't play well, and Rashford's not on the bench, I'm probably more excited that Ahmad will come on. So I'm not even, there was probably a time when I'd be a little bit concerned about Rashford being out. But I've got to say, is that the level of the drop-off with Marcus Rashford now, that I'm really not that bothered if he misses the game? You could say he's missed a lot of games this season when he's actually started, but Garnacho deserves to start. We're better on the left with Garnacho. Anthony deserves to start. He's probably had the best couple of weeks in his Man United career. And Ahmad scored the winning goal against Liverpool in the FA Cup and has not really been given a chance since. So I'm sort of like, if Rashford's got a bit of a knock, can he miss the game tomorrow anyway? But maybe that's a little bit harsh. That's sort of the way I feel about it. So I think I think he will be involved tomorrow. By the way, if he starts, I will say I don't agree with it. Because as fans, you've got a right to say it. Pundits say it. So I don't agree with him starting, but I'm pretty sure he will be involved tomorrow, despite that. So we'll go into the Bournemouth game pretty much as we did last week. There's not going to be any changes at centre-back. He was asked about the centre-back situation and the issues that he's had. He actually jumped in and said, it's not just centre-back I've got issues, also left-back. We haven't got a left-back. And I thought fair play to Ten Hag, because the media will tell the story they want to tell, and sometimes you've got to tell the story yourself. And he was asked about the centre-back issues, and he said, look, it's also at left-back as well. We don't have a left-back. He was asked about Harry Maguire, and obviously Man United looked to sell him last year. Does he regret that now? Which I thought was a bit of a weird question. Do you regret trying to sell Harry Maguire last summer, but not selling him? Well, he said this. Look, you've got to look at the circumstances. You've got to look at the perspective. Harry Maguire wants to play football. And at that time, he wasn't starting for Manchester United. Obviously, we've got an injury crisis. No one's ever had a problem with Maguire. It's just been about he wants to play games. He's playing really well for us at the moment. So I think, it's a good question. He was also asked about not having a stable back four all season. How difficult is that? And I felt, because I listen to these things, I'm sure you do as well, I think sometimes in the media you will get somebody who will call somebody out directly, but the clever people call somebody out indirectly. And I personally felt that Ten Hag, intentionally or not, was responding to some of the criticism he's had in the last few weeks. The excitable white trainer crew on Sky, with their big graphics. I think he was sort of having a pop at them, because he said, look, it's very difficult to not be able to put a stable back four out all season. Whether it's your left back being out, whether it's your centre backs being out, we've never had 2 or 3, even 3 games in a row where we've been able to pick the same back four. I don't know whether we've actually done that this season. Have we had 3 games in a row where we've had the same back four? So he basically said, look, it's very, very difficult, but anyone with even a fraction of knowledge of the game of football would know how difficult that is. And that's sort of a bounce back to these people who sit there on Sky or TNT or wherever else and say, where's the style of play? Nah, nah, nah. Well, I do agree with Ten Hag on that. I'm like, it's very difficult. We saw it with Jurgen Klopp last year. He couldn't build a back four all season, and it cost them a lot until they got players back. So I think that, you know, defensively we have had, and also we don't have the profile of centre-backs that Klopp's got. He's got 4 centre-backs that can pretty much play a high line. We've got 2 who can play a high line and 3 who have to play on the edge of the box. So it's been massively problematic for us this season, and I think everybody could agree with that. And he was also asked about Bournemouth, and after losing to Bournemouth at Old Trafford at the start of the season, there was a quote from Ten Hag where he said about consistency, we've got to get consistent. He was asked about that, and he said, look, after that game against Bournemouth, I think we'd beaten Chelsea midweek before or something like that, and it's that consistency to go from one game to the other. And he said we've got to win the fight. You know, you've got to run harder. You've got to tackle better. You've got to pass better. You've got to win the fight if you want to win the game. And you know, that's a mentality thing. That's a mentality thing that we've had all season at Manchester United. I see it. You see it. I mean, how many times do we sit there on a watch along, and we'll probably do it again tomorrow night, and you go, after the first 5 or 10 minutes, I know exactly where this game's going to go. I know exactly what's going to happen, because tactics, style of play, formation, starting 11, on the bench, whatever, for so many years with Manchester United, it's just very, very clear that it's about how the players feel coming into the game. And you can see it in the first 5 or 10 minutes, whether they want it or not, whether they want to win the fight. I mean, I mentioned it in the preview, but tomorrow night against Bournemouth, a couple of weeks ago against Brentford, both away games, you go to these places, the combined value of their starting 11 wages wise will be less than 250 grand a week for 11 players. Maybe 300 grand a week at a push. We will be paying nearly 2 million. And we're asking these players to go out there and fight. The recruitment and profile of that dressing room is a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. In no other walk of life would you have something that you're paying 300 grand a week for, smashing the shit out of something you're paying £2 million a week for. It's bloody embarrassing. And if I was Ineos, I wouldn't be shaking hands and smiling and saying, fancy doing a little bit more? I'd be like, you fucking get out. Who are you? Get out. Go. Because it's disgusting, and it doesn't get spoken about enough. We used to see it a few years ago. The value of Man United's team compared to such and such in the Cup who got a draw. It's incredible. So he's a part-timer and he works in a fish and chip shop on a Saturday morning. He scored against Man United in the Cup in the afternoon. But that's what it used to be all about. But actually, in the Premier League now, you've almost got those comparisons and stark contrasts where we're paying our first 11 around £2 million a week. Bournemouth will be paying their first 11 around 300 grand a week. And if they run us off the field tomorrow and they fight harder, what the hell are we doing? You know, what are we doing? We may as well sell all our lot, buy the Bournemouth squad and give £1.7 million to charity every year, because it's a waste of money. It's an absolute waste of money. Players not always been up for it was evident from last season too. Newcastle away is an example. Anfield last season as well, says Patrick. Well, yeah, bigger picture here, but it leads nicely into... he was asked about John Murtough, Eric Ten Hag, and this is what he had to say. He basically said that with regards to John Murtough, we worked quite well together. He's obviously got his plan and he's gone, but it's important that the owners get somebody in to do that job with regards to next season. And it felt like Ten Hag was basically saying, look, I'm on my own now. I don't have that director of football there. I don't know what's happening. When is somebody going to come in? Because for next season, it's going to be really, really important. God only knows what they're going to do next season. I don't know. I wish I did, but I haven't got a bloody clue what they're going to do next season. I mean, it could well be Dan Ashworth and Gareth Southgate dream team. Calvin Phillips, come on down. Jordan Henderson. I don't know what we're going to do. But Eric Ten Hag is correct there. We are in the middle of November. Sorry, we're not in the middle of November. We're in the middle of April now, and most clubs are recruiting they're speaking to people, they're making plans, and Sir Jim Radcliffe's having a face-to-face with the CEO of Newcastle. I mean, that just shows, what's Sir Jim Radcliffe having a face-to-face meeting with Newcastle for about Dan Ashworth? Like, that worries me. Sir Jim Radcliffe is a partial owner of Manchester United. Why is he having a meeting with Newcastle to get Dan Ashworth? Surely that's Sir David Brailsford's job, or somebody else in the club. This is negotiating. Why Sir Jim? It's worrying if that's true, actually. It came out this morning. I think Beth spoke about it. That the story is that Sir Jim Radcliffe is having a chat with Newcastle to try and speed up the Dan Ashworth deal. Why is Sir Jim Radcliffe having to get his hands dirty to do stuff like that? Has he not got people who can sort this out for him? But no, Ten Hag is correct. We need a director of football in, and we need them now. We need to start making progress, and we need to start making it now. And we need to start making progress tomorrow on the pitch. As I said, I think that there's 5 or 6 players tomorrow that are in that team because of Erik Ten Hag. And if Erik Ten Hag gets removed, what are the future of those players? So they need to start, look, there might be people in that dressing room that want Ten Hag gone, but that's because they probably need to go. If I was those players, I'd be getting together and going, look, we might not be the senior pros here, but our futures are the biggest in doubt. This manager's actually given us a chance. He's bought us, he's brought us in, he's promoted us. We need to perform as a unit, because if he goes, who knows what our future's going to be. If Ten Hag goes, will Rasmus be the starting striker? I don't know. If Ten Hag goes, will Garnacho be playing on the left or the right, or will Rashford get his place back? If Mainu, you'd think Mainu would play under another manager, but you just don't know. If they're not into youth, they might go back to the bench for you. Anana certainly is a Ten Hag signing. Delo, has been given massive opportunity. So, look, I think these players need to step up tomorrow. We need to start winning some games. Please play Ahmad instead of Rashford, says Tony. And Patrick says, with the Glazers controlling the financial side of United, is it most likely that they vetoed paying the compensation to have Ashworth start sooner, says Patrick? Who knows? Who knows? I was speaking to somebody yesterday, because obviously I took some time off yesterday and I was away. I was speaking to somebody yesterday in the afternoon who are in the business world, and they were saying, I just... sometimes when you can smell a rat, it's because there is a rat. And we're not talking about Sir Jim Radcliffe here. I'm just saying something's fishy around the United deal. Like, what are the Glazers really doing? Like, are they involved? Joel Glazer and Avram Glazer have always been involved day to day. I think it's Joel Glazer who's more involved. He's always been involved in Man United day to day. Big conversations with Richard Arnold every day. You're telling me that he's suddenly gone, oh, I'm not interested now. You crack on, lads. It doesn't feel like that's going on, does it? Somebody somewhere needs to start snooping around Man United and finding out how we're being run day to day, because at the moment, there is a little bit of uncertainty, of course. Alpha Gaming, thank you very much for your super chat. Rashford's the new Lingard, says Luke. He's already had too many chances. Play Ahmad ahead of him or bring Ahmad on from the bench ahead of him. He's performed at every opportunity. I want to bring you a bit of transfer news in, but let me just make sure I've covered everything in the press conference. So yeah, he spoke about the centre-back issue, spoke about the injuries. I think Rashford will play tomorrow. McTominay's a doubt. Varane's out. Evans is out. Probably going to be playing Cambuala and Harry Maguire. I think obviously Wan-Bissaka will be at left back. Check out the preview on the channel about that anyway. And Ten Hag was also asked about dropping points in recent games from winning positions. Obviously Chelsea and Liverpool, our last 2 games, we could have won both. We were winning late on. And he was asked about disappointments about that. And he said, well, look, at the end of the day, the hardest part is to get into a position at the end of a game in the Premier League where you've won it. So to let those points go is very disappointing, but it comes down to management. And look, my personal feeling is that Bruno Fernandes is the best captain we've got available at the moment. You couldn't give it to Maguire, it didn't suit him. Casemiro has never had it, so you can't talk about that, and isn't playing particularly well at himself. I think Bruno is the right captain, but is he good enough? No. We don't have the right leaders in that team, and that is why we are so up and down like a roller coaster, because we're not very good at game managing it. I mean, I don't think Man City would lose either of those games against Liverpool or Chelsea in that position, because they've got people who know how to game manage a game. But we didn't. I mean, we conceded a stupid penalty against Chelsea, and then we decided to try and go for it and win it and run out of position. And they countered and scored. Against Liverpool, we're comfortable. I think we're going to win the game. and somebody decides to slide tackle in the box. And it's just that game management mentality. It always comes down to that. Hughes Lad has gifted a membership. You're an absolute legend, mate. Thank you very much. Just a bit of transfer news as well I wanted to bring in. It's coming in from Italy. I remember I mentioned this a few weeks ago when we had the Hotter meter out. We'll get it out again, don't worry. Talking about like Elise, Branthwaite, Todibo would be the top 3 players we're most likely to sign at the moment, based on the talks that we've had with them and what United want to do. But one player I did mention, and I think we do need to be very wary of, not wary of in a bad way, but wary of that we could go in there again, is Adrien Rabiot of Juventus. He is apparently going to leave. He only signed a 1-year contract last year. He was out of contract last year. He signed a 1-year extension. He's out of contract again this summer. Manchester United have been mentioned again, but so have Newcastle. I mean, what is it about Man United and Newcastle? I want to stop being linked to people that Newcastle are being linked to, because Newcastle cannot be our rival. I'm not having a rivalry with Newcastle. We're better than that. But apparently Rabiot is interested in Man United, and Newcastle United are interested as well. Look, beggars can't be choosers. Would Man City do this deal? Would Arsenal do this deal? No, but they're higher than us. Where we are at the moment and the budget we probably have, Rabiot is still relatively young. I don't know if anyone remembers. I can tell you how old he is myself. But he would be available on a free. You would be paying wages again. And that's always a concern with someone like Rabiot, as we know, because it fell through before. He's 29, actually. A little bit older than I thought he was. 29. But look, we've got to stop doing that as well. Like, we do this too much. Oh, they're 31, they're past it. Harry Kane's into his early 30s. He's going to be a top striker for a few more years yet. Modric is still pulling strings in the Champions League for Real Madrid. He's well into his mid-30s. So just because somebody is 29, 28, we can't... What we've done is we've bought 28, 29, 30-year-olds who have injury issues, whether it's Schweinsteiger, whether it's Alexis Sanchez. We just buy the wrong type of 28, 29-year-olds. What we need to do, if you can buy a 28, 29-year-old, 30-year-old who actually is very fit and are going to play until their mid-30s, there's not a problem with it. But look, very, very interesting that Rabiot is available again. And I certainly think that we've tried to buy him 2 summers in a row. Maybe third time lucky, maybe third time unlucky for some. But we won't have a massive budget. We do need midfielders, and I'll be honest with you, where we're sat now, I would 100% sign Rabiot. I mean, it was only a couple of weeks ago that Fabrizio was saying that Man United aren't even looking at midfielders at the moment because it's not a priority. I think if it's not a priority and we haven't got a lot of money for midfielders, then I would take Rabiot over nothing, 100%. Times End has gifted a membership. Let's just run a quick poll on that one, actually. You may as well. Would you sign Rabiot? Let's do that. Would you sign Rabiot? And also, don't forget, tonight at 8 o'clock, we've got the preview where we're going to... Sorry, no, I've got an 8 o'clock show tonight where we're going to be giving away some memberships in the chat, where I'll be giving away some memberships. So don't forget to miss the 8 o'clock show tonight. Biggin says, why are you chatting about the tune? We're the same level. We're definitely not. We're not accepting that. And the Hughes lad says, forgetting price, do you think Evan Ferguson is the best profile of player to work with Rasmus? Says the Hughes lad. Well, I really do like the idea of Evan Ferguson. I've said it before. I just don't think it's a doable deal. I think a lot of people, again, have written Evan Ferguson off because he's not had the best season for Brighton. But I don't think he's the right guy for Manchester. Sorry, I do think he's the right guy for Manchester United, and I think he'd work really well at Man United. I think he's got the right mentality. I think he's got the right age profile, and I think he'd be a better player at Manchester United, and I think he'd work really well under Rasmus. But Brighton would want a lot of money for him, and based on the season he's had, I don't think you could justify 80, 90 million pounds for Evan Ferguson. I think if you could get him for 40 or 50, even 50 feels a lot this season. But no, I've always felt that he would be good as a Manchester United potential striker, yeah. First video I've watched in 2 to 3 weeks, says OB. Not because I don't love your content, but mainly because everything about this club ruins my mood these days. Well, look, I've got to say I'm looking forward to the game tomorrow. Really looking forward to it, and I hope we're going to get the result, but you just don't know. These are the sort of games, like Liverpool, I think, it's not a free hit because it's so stressful. Chelsea, the same. But Bournemouth away, there'll be a lot of people writing us off, but I think if we can go there and win, it gives us a boost going into the FA Cup semi-final and the last few games of the season. I'll tell you what, though, there is no positives with Manchester United this season, but if you looked at Europe last night and the night before and the results that we've had, the English teams, I'm sort of glad we're not chasing fifth down, because it's looking more and more likely that fifth place will not get Champions League football now. It's looking more likely it's only going to be the top four, because West Ham are going out to Leverkusen, Liverpool going out to Atalanta, Arsenal could be going out to Bayern. So it doesn't look like the Premier League are going to get the second spot in the Champions League now, which means it'll only be the top four. So look, I'd love us to be fighting for fourth. We're not. But imagine if we got fifth place and then we didn't get it. Maybe people would prefer that, but you know, it's a bit embarrassing. Anyway, look, I'm back at 8 o'clock tonight. We've also got me playing FIFA at 3 o'clock. My Manchester United career mode is back. So if you fancy a bit of that this afternoon, I'll push you over to the live chat. Subscribe, get yourself ready for that in about 45 minutes. Thanks everyone for watching today. Back at 8 o'clock tonight. Take care. Speak to you all in a bit.